The streets would be flooded every time it rained, and pray to God it rains again. You know, companies are like people. They have a life cycle. We're thinking about water 24/7, okay? College scholarships last year, you can cut that on the tape.
With the recent wildfires, a billionaire couple has come under scrutiny again for consuming more water than the entire city of Los Angeles. The Resnicks, the owners of Fiji Water, Wonderful Pistachios, Pom Juice, several brands of wine, and a majority stake in the 500 billion gallons of water stored in the Kern Water Bank. They've been called America's richest farmers and the Koch brothers of California, with a combined net worth of over $12 billion. Much of the recent criticism has centered on the notion that the Resnicks control all of California's water, or that they prevented LA from fighting the Palisades wildfires. And neither of those things are true. They obfuscate the real truth, which is, as usual, quite a bit darker. The truth is the Resnicks bill themselves as philanthropists, as genius entrepreneurs that are just giving back. And they've given millions and millions to organizations that are fighting problems that they themselves have caused. They are greenwashers and reputation launderers of the highest order.
Ag is not what you think. It's not picking fruit anymore.
Linda Resnick was born Linda Ray Harris in Baltimore, Maryland in 1943 and was raised in Philadelphia. Her father, Jack H. Harris, was a film producer and distributor, and her mother Muriel was an interior designer. Thanks to her father, Linda became a child actor at the age of 4, with a recurring role on the Horn and Hardart Children's Hour, a variety show that aired in Philadelphia and New York City. In 1957, when Linda was 14, her father produced his first major film, The Blob, starring Steve McQueen, not as the Blob, for $110,000, or about $1.2 million in today's money. The film was a hit, making $4 million at the box office, or about $43 million today, cementing her father's career. So when Linda graduated high school, the family moved to Beverly Hills, California, where her father would produce or distribute over 1,000 films over his career. Linda wanted to attend art school, but says that despite owning 2 Rolls-Royces, her father refused to pay for it. So she briefly attended community college, where tuition was free in California at the time. Then she quit and briefly worked for a mail-order catalogue. Then she quit that and, at the age of 19, started her own advertising agency called Linda Limited. She married a publishing executive named Herschel Sene, had a couple of kids, and got divorced. In 1969, at the age of 26, she started dating a guy named Anthony J. Russo, an engineer at Rand Corporation, a think tank in Santa Monica. In the fall of that year, Russo asked Linda if he and a colleague, Daniel Ellsberg, could use the Xerox machine at her advertising agency to duplicate 7,000 pages of top-secret military documents to be distributed to the New York Times. The Pentagon Papers, as they are known, were released by the Times in 1971 and detail how the US government had lied to the public about the Vietnam War.
You see, I owned an 812 copier that Daniel Ellsberg used to copy the Pentagon Papers, which would eventually end the war in Vietnam.
Linda was a co-conspirator in the case, and prosecutors investigated her for 2 years before dropping legal action in the wake of Watergate. It was around this time when Linda met Stewart Resnick. Born in New Jersey in 1936, he moved to California with his parents at the age of 20, where he attended UCLA. According to him, his father was an alcoholic who owned a bar and gambled away all of the family's money while Stewart was at college. After getting his undergraduate degree in 1959, he attended the UCLA School of Law. To pay his tuition of about $1,000, he started a janitorial services company called Clean Time Building Maintenance, which served commercial properties in Los Angeles. He married a woman named Sandra Frazier, had 3 kids, and got divorced. In 1969, he sold his janitorial company, which by then had about 1,000 employees, for $2.5 million, and started investing in other businesses. He met Linda when she came to pitch her advertising services to a business he was involved in. Linda has said of their first meeting, "I never got the account, but I sure got the business." Her words. The details are murky. Some articles say they met when he was president of his janitorial company. Others say it was a year later at a company he invested in. This was a common occurrence in researching this story. Journalists who interviewed the Resnicks end up reporting details that don't quite match up in terms of the exact timeline. Anyway, they married in 1972 and soon began purchasing real estate and existing successful businesses. Much later, Linda Resnick wrote in her book, "Value is real even when the product is 100% fake." She was referring to her purchase of a fake pearl necklace owned by Jackie Kennedy for $211,000. The Resnicks later sold replicas of the necklace from one of their companies, the Franklin Mint, for $200 a pop. They sold 130,000 of them. This is a great representation of the Resnicks and their business model. Money begets money. Above all else, they are acquirers and marketers.
I remember I was on my book tour, and Stewart called me and said, "You've got $15 million, give us a brand."
And they've done well at it, affording themselves a life of obscene wealth and formidable influence with the celebrities and politicians that they call friends. First, in 1979, they bought Teleflora, a flower wire service, which sells flowers to customers, with the orders fulfilled and delivered by local florists. Linda left her advertising business to become president of the company, and after some major TV ad buys, Teleflora became the world's biggest floral network. The same year, they bought American Protection Industries Inc., a security company that included API alarm systems, which supplied security guards and alarms for half of the commercial buildings in Los Angeles. Then, they turned American Protection Industries into a holding company, with API alarm systems and Teleflora as subsidiaries, and Stewart serving as president and chairman of the holding company. Around the same time, in the late 1970s, they began acquiring farmland in Kern County, California, because, according to Stewart, he was worried about inflation. In the 1980s, they began their move into agribusiness. In 1981, they bought a 2,500-acre citrus grove near Bakersfield that came with a processing plant called Paramount Citrus Association, and began selling fruit for both retail and wholesale. In 1986, they bought 12,000 acres of groves from Mobil Oil for $30 million, and started selling almonds and pistachios to cereal and candy manufacturers. The same year, they bought a company called the Franklin Mint for $167 million, which produced mass-market, collectible knickknacks, like commemorative coins, souvenir plates, and dolls, and of course, those Jackie Kennedy knockoff necklaces. Stewart was installed as CEO and chairman, and Linda was in charge of international marketing. They secured licensing deals with celebrities to use their likenesses, resulting in things like John Wayne collectible plates. But wait, do not eat off of, Pilgrim.
Masterfully crafted by the Franklin Mint, accented in 24-karat gold and fiery red crystals. Precisely and logically modeled from the original, this is an exact scale reproduction of the Enterprise as seen in the TV series and authenticated by Gene Roddenberry, creator of Star Trek.
Throughout articles and interviews with the Resnicks, they've cultivated this notion that Stewart is sort of a business genius, and Linda is a marketing genius who came up with unbelievable things like putting celebrity faces on toxic plates. In 1987, they bought another 77,000 acres of farmland from the Texaco Oil Company. In 1989, they formed Paramount Farms from their vast holdings in Kern County and began selling almonds and pistachios nationwide under their own label, alongside citrus fruits, pomegranates, and olives. In 1993, they renamed their holding company again, becoming Roll International. Around this time, it seems they had a bit of a problem. They had over 100,000 acres of farmland requiring about 80 billion gallons of water per year, planted in desert scrubland that receives on average only 5 inches of rain per year. Almonds and pistachios in particular are very water-intensive crops. It takes over 900 gallons of water to grow a pound of almonds, and over 1,000 gallons to grow a pound of pistachios. Yes, they had planted some of the world's thirstiest nut trees in the desert. These crops could never survive in Kern County without heavy irrigation from water pumped south through the California aqueduct. And at this juncture, around 1994, California had just experienced a 5-year drought, its worst in 50 years and the worst in its history until 2012 to 2016. The state had been trying to combat this for several years, using taxpayer money to build new water infrastructure, diverting rivers and creating water storage systems for drought-prone areas. One of these projects was the Kern Water Bank. In 1988, the California Department of Water Resources purchased 20,000 acres along the I-5 highway in Kern County and spent $74 million, about $200 million in today's money, to construct a massive water bank, sort of like an underground lake, that would act as an emergency reservoir, collecting water in wet years that could be pumped in dry years to supplement local communities. The bank is 32 square miles and can hold 1.5 million acre-feet of water, almost 500 billion gallons. It's nowhere near all the water in California, but it is a lot, and it was designed as a public resource. But in 1994, several big agribusiness corporations met with the California Department of Water Resources in a series of mysterious, closed-door meetings. Roll International, the holding company privately owned by the Resnicks, was one of these corporations. In short, the California State Water Project, the water management group for California, had promised to deliver a certain amount of water to municipalities and private companies, what's called paper water, legal rights to water that may or may not exist in the real world, i.e., you have the right to draw this amount of water whether we actually have it or not. But the project wasn't fully completed and couldn't yet deliver the amount of water that had been promised. So agribusiness corporations threatened to sue, which led to these closed-door meetings. After several months of private negotiations at a resort in Monterey, California, the Department of Water Resources agreed to give away the Kern Water Bank, built with public money to the Kern County Water Agency, in exchange for cancelling out a tiny portion of the water that had been promised. Then, the Kern County Water Agency immediately signed the deed over to the Kern Water Bank Authority, a so-called public-private partnership between 4 water districts in Kern County and one private company called Westside Mutual Water Company. Westside Mutual is a shell company owned by the Resnicks. And Westside Mutual ended up with the controlling stake of the water bank at 57% ownership. The Resnicks have made clear they don't technically control the bank, the Water Bank Authority controls it. However, they own the controlling stake, and the authority always seems to give them what they want, a plentiful supply of water for their farming empire, even in times of drought when the public, who paid to create the bank, are told to conserve water. After this deal was made, with a new, plentiful source of water for their desert-grown crops, the Resnicks more than doubled their farming operations, and they became the biggest growers of citrus in the United States, and the biggest growers of tree nuts in the world. And this massive increase in their operations allowed them to further expand their empire.
Bought a pistachio farm, and then on the pistachio farm were a lot of pomegranate trees.
Well, there were about 100 acres.
Oh, that's a lot.
And it was then.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And the farmer said, let's pull it. And Stewart said, that's my husband, the visionary. And he said, let's see how they do. And they did well.
In 1995, they purchased another orchard of pistachio trees, which included 100 acres of pomegranates of the wonderful cultivar. But pomegranates weren't a popular fruit in the United States at the time. The Resnicks website says only 12% of Americans had awareness about pomegranates. So ask yourself, are you pomegranate aware? So they spent $40 million on medical research looking for health benefits of the pomegranate. And what do you know? The research they paid for brought back results that were favourable for their new branding venture. This, as you might have guessed, is common in food advertising. A 2007 review of 206 different studies looking at health benefits from consuming milk, soda, or fruit juice found that when those studies were funded entirely by companies selling those same products, they were 4 to 8 times more likely to show positive results. Almost like there's an implicit bias. But it worked. In 2002, the Resnicks launched Pom Wonderful. Pomegranate juice sold for $3.99 for 16 ounces, in a plastic bottle that Linda has described as being hourglass-shaped, like her. They also sold pomegranate supplement pills at $30 for a 1-month supply. They funded a massive round of advertising in fitness magazines, the New York Times, websites, bus stops, and billboards, claiming that Pom Wonderful has super health powers that are clinically proven to fight heart disease, prostate cancer, and erectile dysfunction. So watch out, Pom drinkers, you'll have someone's eye out. They were later sued by the FTC for making false and unsubstantiated claims, because the studies they funded were scientifically meaningless. They weren't blind studies, they didn't use control groups, and they showed results no different than a placebo. The Resnicks argued that the FTC suit violated their First Amendment right to free speech. Yes, really, these people argued in court that they were entitled to lie about their product in advertising because free speech. And here, perhaps, is some more free speech. That looked good, didn't it? I shall have to buy one or several of those goods or services. The Resnicks lost their case, with the court determining that the health claims in their ads were deceptive. Just days after the ruling, they used the case as part of their advertising campaign with full-page ads in the New York Times, LA Times, and others, with wording selectively pulled from the judge's ruling, making a mockery of the FTC in a sort of bizarre, brazen counterattack. The Resnicks ended up appealing the verdict, lost again, and in the end were ordered to stop making false health claims in their advertising. They tried taking the case to the Supreme Court, which declined to hear it. And ultimately, none of that mattered, because Americans had already bought into the marketing blitz, and POM Wonderful became very successful. In its first year, POM did $12 million in sales. By the time of the FTC lawsuit in 2010, it was earning $165 million per year, and as of 2024, it's over $180 million.
You really must be authentic. I think as time moves forward in this space that we are in America, that authenticity will become more and more important.
Pomegranate juice wasn't their only foray into the beverage industry. 2 years after launching POM Wonderful, in 2004, according to Linda, Stewart wanted to buy a bottled water company, and they had a friend in Aspen who owned part of such a company who set up a blind taste test of different bottled waters, and Linda, with her self-described magic taste buds, thought their friend's water was the best.
I'm interested in buying a water company. I said, that's ridiculous. All water tastes the same. And I had these magic taste buds that...
So they bought the company, Fiji Water, for $50 million. The water comes from an aquifer in Viti Levu, the largest island in the developing nation of Fiji, where it is bottled in plastic and shipped thousands of miles around the globe. Cue the marketing genius of Linda Resnick, who sought to brand Fiji as a premium, exotic, natural water favoured by celebrities and the wealthy. There was a massive marketing blitz, with 1,500 different marketing events in the first year that they owned the company. They got Fiji Water placed in TV shows and movies, along with traditional advertising and placing it in high-end hotels and restaurants. They became the official water of Hollywood award shows like the Emmys, Grammys, Critics' Choice Awards, AFI Awards, and Film Independent Spirit Awards, where they would have Fiji Water models photobombing celebrities on the red carpet. It's luxurious. Celebrities love it. Look at Tony Shalhoub's face. It's pure. It's green. Earth's finest water. Untouched by man until you unscrew the cap. As it turns out, it's neither green nor untouched by man. The PET plastic bottles are shipped 5,000 miles across the ocean from the manufacturer in San Francisco to bottlers in Fiji. The infrastructure in Fiji can't support the electricity demands of the factory, so it runs entirely on generators using diesel fuel. It takes 2,000 times more energy to make a bottle of Fiji water than it takes to make the same amount of tap water back in the US. The bottled water is shipped back across the ocean, 5,000 miles to the United States, where over 90% of their sales occur. Over 1 million bottles a day. More than half the people living in Fiji, producing this luxury water for Americans, do not have safe drinking water themselves, and are dealing with a crisis of plastic waste that plagues their islands. And calling it Earth's finest water is a bit of a stretch. Just this year, an advocacy group filed a lawsuit against Fiji Water for marketing the drink as natural when it's been found to contain BPA, microplastics, and lovely, lovely arsenic. They've tried to fight against all of this, of course. In 2008, the company promised to become carbon neutral by 2019 by planting trees. But later, they amended that target date and said it wouldn't happen until 2037. In 2023, they started using recycled plastic in about 65% of the 500 million bottles they produce each year. But the reality is, plastic disposable water bottles can never really be environmentally friendly. But again, the marketing blitz was successful, and in 2006, Fiji surpassed Evian as the top-selling luxury bottled water in the United States. And the Resnicks continued expanding, soon adding 4 brands of wine to their holdings: Justin Vineyards, Landmark Vineyards, JNSQ, and Lewis Cellars. In 2015, they again changed their name of the holding company to The Wonderful Company. In building their empire, the Resnicks have become very, very wealthy. Around 2010, their estimated net worth exceeded $1 billion. By 2020, it was $4 billion. Today, in 2025, it's $12 billion. And boy, do they love to spend it on all the luxuries and influence enjoyed by the super wealthy. They have a $25 million mansion in Beverly Hills that's been compared to the French Palace of Versailles, full of Picassos, 17th and 18th century French and Italian masterpiece paintings, a collection of marble sculptures from the last 400 years, designer gardens, whatever the hell that means, a massive collection of designer clothes from Chanel, Yves Saint Laurent, Thierry Mugler, and Jeffrey Bean.
I'm boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heels on the ground.
I'm high heels on the ground. I'm Louboutins on the ground.
Jean-Paul Gaultier couture gowns for charity events. Personal shoppers and personal assistants. They have a private jet. They have a private airstrip near their packing plant at Lost Hills. A private aviation company in Bakersfield. They enjoy lavish dinner parties attended by friends like the Schwarzeneggers, the Clintons, Aaron Sorkin, Larry David, Martha Stewart, and Governor Gavin Newsom. Senator Dianne Feinstein is a close personal friend who vacations with the Resnicks at their second home in Aspen, Colorado. Naturally, they've donated millions to politicians across America at various levels of government, mostly Democrats, but the occasional Republican as well, in addition to numerous PACs and super PACs. And, as you might expect, or at least hope, they've faced a lot of criticism over the years, dating all the way back to their acquisition of the Kern Water Bank in 1994. In particular, when there's a serious drought or wildfires in California, new articles emerge about the Resnicks and their water holdings. This happened again in January of 2025, when wildfires raged across the affluent Pacific Palisades neighborhood in LA, and fire hydrants began running dry. Videos were shared across social media, purporting that the Resnicks owned all the water in California, such as this 2022 video from More Perfect Union, how this billionaire couple stole California's water supply. They own a lot of water, they control a lot of water, but certainly not all the water in California, and they didn't steal it. The real story of the Resnicks is unsettling enough, but exaggerating the truth really helps nothing and gives them an easy shield where they can deflect real concerns as untrue. Furthermore, the Resnicks' water holdings had nothing to do with the empty hydrants in the Palisades. Extreme demand from the firefighting efforts caused a drop in water pressure, which meant some of the hydrants ran dry. But while the Resnicks' operations aren't directly tied to problems fighting the LA wildfires, they almost certainly contribute to the fact that Kern County has some of the most contaminated water in all of California, with dangerous levels of arsenic, nitrate, and trichloropropane, TCP, which are linked to various cancers, chronic diseases, and reproductive disorders. These chemicals come from fertilizers and pesticides used in industrial agriculture, contaminating the groundwater. As of 2024, residents of multiple towns in Kern County have been told not to drink their tap water. At Lakeside Union School District in Bakersfield, students haven't been allowed to drink from water fountains since 2009. Instead, the school spends $28,000 annually to purchase bottled water for its classrooms and hallways. According to the State Water Board, 130,000 residents in Kern County are affected by water systems that consistently fail to meet drinking water standards. Cancer was the leading cause of death in Kern County from 2008 to 2018, the last time stats for that were available. Naturally, to combat the criticism they've received, the Resnicks have donated a lot of money to various charities and institutions, what some might call reputation laundering, combating a negative image by donating money in the hopes that people will remember the donations and the buildings named after themselves instead of the unsavory things done by their companies. The wonderful company website speaks in glowing terms about how much it's done for residents of the Central Valley, one of the poorest regions of the United States, where many of its workers live. In the town of Lost Hills, over 50% of households have at least one person working for the wonderful company. The poverty rate is almost 27%, with an estimated per capita income of about $15,000. But they have a free gym, and a soccer field, and a basketball court, and a new housing development with mortgage payments starting as low as $1,300 a month, all courtesy of the Resnicks, thank you very much.
And they can do the work at home, minding the baby, cooking dinner, and still doing their beading.
That's incredible.
It's just the greatest thing.
So tell me, Linda, and congratulations on all of that, because that really is what I call moving humanity forward. That's what an architect of change does.
The flip side of this generosity is how much the Resnicks have fought to keep their workers' wages low and to prevent them from unionizing. They fought against raising the state minimum wage on multiple occasions and engaged in union busting. In 1999, they broke an effort by 1,000 workers to join the laborers' union, issuing a press release that said, "Employees are doing well and do not need a union." Well, if you say so. Later, in 2002, the National Labor Relations Board ruled that their company had illegally threatened workers with firing and had illegally fired 2 workers for supporting unionization. In 2019, 1,800 temporary field hands who were members of the United Farm Workers Union went on strike when their pay rate was lowered from $53 to $48 per bin of fruit picked. Striking workers said that a fast picker could do up to 2 bins per day, meaning they were paid below the state minimum wage. The workers ultimately won and went back to work when their bin rate was returned to $53 a bin. But these small wins haven't stopped the Resnicks from trying to fight unionization and keep wages low. In 2024, they sued the state of California to stop a law making it easier for farm workers to unionize. To boil it down, in effect, the Resnicks claimed that when their workers signed up for the United Farm Workers Union, they didn't understand what they were signing. The UFW countered that the Resnicks had been intimidating workers and had brought in high-paid union busters. An appellate court sided with the workers, but there's talk of the Resnicks taking the matter to the conservative Supreme Court. These are just a few examples. In my opinion, there's something really disturbing about fighting so hard to keep your workers from earning livable wages while shouting to the world how charitable you are to those same people because you've spent money on basketball courts in the impoverished towns where they live in trailer parks and drink contaminated water. Water that you have contaminated. Towns where Linda herself notes the residents are very poor, some of the poorest in the state of California, and that more than half of the households work for you.
And if you don't listen and you're not compassionate, you can't market. I mean, you can for a while.
Basketball courts aside, the Resnicks are also board members, trustees, and donors of various museums bearing their name. The LA County Museum of Art named a wing after them, following a $45 million donation. The Linda and Stewart Resnick Exhibition Pavilion. And I suppose they're nothing but exhibitionists. Linda donated designer clothing from her massive personal collection for the museum to display, alongside 100 paintings and sculptures from their private collection, worth about $10 million. In 2010, a star-studded opening gala was held in their honour, called The Unmasking, attended by a slew of celebrity guests who enjoyed a musical performance by Christina Aguilera. Hand in hand with reputation laundering is greenwashing, making your business appear to be good for the environment, even when it's clearly not. The wonderful company website is awash with terminology about making the world a better place, sustainability, philanthropy, being a guiding force for good, and pledges to donate money to sustainability research programs, along with lofty quotes from friends about how amazing the Resnicks are. All of this while polluting Kern County with cancerous substances, shipping billions of plastic bottles across the globe, and fighting to keep their workers living in poverty. And some of the Resnick's eco-friendly donations seem more like investments in their own business interests. As just one example, in 2022 they donated $50 million to UC Davis to create a sustainable agriculture research centre, the Resnick Centre for Agricultural Innovation. But $10 million of that money was earmarked for research grants focused on identifying value-added properties in pistachio, almond, and pomegranate byproducts. I don't know, have you tried making your workers' houses out of pistachio husks? Ultimately, all of this is part of a much larger trend. A trend of ultra-wealthy individuals and businesses buying up the Earth's most precious resources, like water. Resources that are often secured using public taxpayer dollars. The kind of people who play a massive role in pollution and climate change, covering the Earth with plastic, while spending vast sums trying to convince the rest of us that they're actually helping. The kinds of people who threaten to sue their neighbours if they don't stop wild bees from entering their fields, as Stewart did in the early 2000s. Wild bees. Oi, are you letting them vultures fly over my house? Well, they're not my vultures, they're just vultures. Right, I'll see you in court. The kinds of people who start a PR war with a writer who interviewed them for a book because he called them vulgarians in his book Unreal Estate because of their gaudy taste. The kinds of people who get into lawsuits over the unauthorized use of a dead woman's likeness to sell knickknacks right after she died, and who, by the way, won. The kinds of people who own so much shit they can't remember how much land they own anymore, as Stewart told a journalist in 2018. The last time he checked, it was 281 square miles in California, covered with 15 million trees, not counting the additional 21,000 acres in Texas and Mexico. And when you look at everything together, there's sort of a cruel irony at play. Is your groundwater contaminated because of industrial farms? Buy our bottled water from 5,000 miles away. It's contaminated too, so just to be safe, buy our wine, nuts, and pomegranate juice. They contain antioxidants, probably. Our companies contribute to climate change, so come study at a university where we've donated money to research climate change. It's like vertical integration of shit. But there is good news here. which is that you can actually do something about this if you are so inclined. According to the Resnicks, 50% of all American households buy their products. In a very real way, we are the ones bankrolling this. So, don't buy wonderful pistachios, almonds, seedless lemons, or halo mandarin oranges. Don't buy Pom Wonderful juice. Don't buy flowers from Teleflora. Don't buy wine from the brands Justin, Landmark, Lewis Sellers, or JNSQ. Don't buy Fiji bottled water. Take it a step further and don't attend museums or universities with the Resnick name plastered on them. Above all, don't take the bait about these companies wanting to save the world. All they want is your money and your adoration, and they deserve neither.
Don't work for a company that doesn't share your values, or
Amen.
for people you wouldn't want to have dinner with.
And there you are. I think Michael Gross calling them vulgarians is accurate and almost as funny as the Resnicks getting upset by that, to the point that they go on a PR smear campaign against him as if to prove him right, when they were doing interviews with him, and they must have known that Michael Gross's whole shtick is doing interviews with very rich people and then writing about how disgusting they are. Well, anyway, there you go. Thanks for joining me. You can get these videos about a week early on Patreon. You can follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, the other one, Dig It, or whatever. Alright, and join me for part 2, where we'll be tasting the pain. Glug, 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 glug. Ugh. See you then.